Hello and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Plus, a weekly video stream and podcast currently focused on Star Wars ANDOR Season 2, which is available to stream on Disney+. My name is Keith Isles and I am an independent filmmaker and movie enthusiast. And today on this episode, we are going to have a spoiler-filled conversation about episodes 7 through 9 of Season 2 of ANDOR. So that's Messenger, Who Are You, and Welcome to the Rebellion. So warning that the conversation we're going to have is it's going to include many spoilers there. If it's your first time here, welcome. We have been covering Season 2 of ANDOR over the past 3 weeks, and we obviously intend to follow that through next week as well with the final 3 installments of not only this series, but not only this season, but the entire series, which will dovetail it into Rogue One. So, you know, we talk about a lot of these things here. If you do find this in any way interesting or entertaining, then please do consider liking the video, sharing the video, subscribing to the channel, giving us a review on podcasts, you know, all of that good stuff, because it helps. And if you want to get in touch, put comments down below and I'll try my utmost to get back to you and fill you in on those sort of things. But that's what this show is. But I'm not alone on the journey. I have a couple of eager Star Wars fans, or media fans, with me to discuss this episode in detail. So first one, I need to get us kind of sound effect going here. Any of you grew up in the 80s, you might have been familiar with so Graham Williams is always being entertaining with his titles. Welcome to the podcast, Graham Williams. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm happier than I was 10 seconds ago. Thanks for that, Keith.
Did I get it right?
Of course you got it right. Who doesn't get it right?
Your thing, Graham, for the benefit of anyone who's listening to this rather than watching it, there's 2 things that you do every week. One is, you know, you try and come up with a G-based title that's kind of relevant and funny, which, you know, you're always very good at that. And the second one is you try and wear a Star Wars related t-shirt, and I see that today you've got the Darth Father. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, a t-shirt I actually forgot I had, and I'm glad I dug it out. I've got some rather amusing ones, but I didn't really want to go down the amusement route, at least on the t-shirts. For this tripartite, for these 3 episodes.
Yes.
As I know we will get into as we discuss.
The Darth Father. Yes, indeed.
Indeed. So Darth Vader as the Godfather, as the famous Il Padrino poster from the 1970s. Mostly black. With just the outline enough to show how ominous, both villains are really.
Well, we will get into set dressing when we get into the news segment, but before we do that, joining us from the other side of the Atlantic is our good friend and regular host of this, Pete Mealy. Hey, Pete.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Hey, okay. Thanks for having me here.
Good. Well, thanks for coming back for more of this. You know, that's always appreciated. It's always good to have you on, and it's always good to talk about this stuff. So, and I feel we've got again, as usual, quite a lot to get into today, haven't we? As usual. So, if you're new here, or even if you're not, you probably know that we have a somewhat of an agenda that we try and stick to, but most of it is you know, really talking about our thoughts and really analyzing the episodes, spoilers and all, you know. But we talk about a little bit of news in the galaxy. We have summaries of the episodes. We thank the maker, some of the people involved in producing and bringing this to our screens. Then we look at, Star Trek references and connections to Star Wars. Freudian slip there, not Star Trek. Star Wars references and connections and Easter eggs, and just for a bit of fun, some predictions and speculation as to where we think this might be going, and then we really get into our thoughts and nitpicks. So that's kind of what the format for this is. So on the newsy side, let's get straight into that. So here we go again.
Let me see what's out there.
Oh, mentioned our show. Look at that. So on the newsy side, I guess the main thing is we had May the 4th last week. May the 4th, which is Star Wars Day for many. There are more than one Star Wars Day, as we all know. It's not necessarily official. The only thing that I could find out that's sort of official stuff that was put out by Disney is they did drop another animated show called Tales from the Underworld, dropped on May 4th. I've not checked any of that out yet. Have either of you guys had a chance to look at that?
No, found and saw it earlier on, added to watch list just to go on check it out in time. But such a busy life, Keith. There's so much content out there too.
There is.
That as we've said before, we're just constantly having to, keep up with with life and all this content that's pushed out there.
Yes, and there is a lot. There's a lot of streaming drama that I watch. There's lots of movies at the theater I watch, and I try and revisit stuff as well sometimes. So there's a lot going on, and often I want to do shows on things but just don't have the bandwidth to do so. Fairly recently I wanted to do a show on Dexter Original Sin, because we've had a couple of shows talking about Dexter, and I was a massive fan of the Dexter prequel, and wanted to cover that, but alas, we only have so much time to do so. But I do want to give one shout out for May the 4th Day, and that's to my lovely mum. I don't know whether she watches these things, but she is not only sweet, but she is creative. She made me, this has become a bit of a tradition now. She feels that there should be a Son's Day, like we have a Mother's Day and a Father's Day and all of that sort of thing. So every year she makes me a May the 4th be with you card, which she sends me on May 4th. That she made this completely on her own by hand, So I think that's amazing that my lovely mum did that. So I wanted to mention that. Obviously, something very special, in fact, with mum is, while we're talking about that, she was the person who took me. I have no idea what date it was, but when I was a young child, she took me to see Star Wars in the cinema, a cinema in Bournemouth. As I said, I don't have any of the details, but all I know is one of those things in my life that I'll never forget. That will stay with me forever. That's why Star Wars is such an icon, and things like this, are absolute icons of my my childhood through to all the way through, really. And I just thought I'd mention that. I don't know why that sort of popped in my head. Another thing today, thinking of my mum, is I was able to return the favour. Something she'll never forget is a few years back, I took her to see her hero David Attenborough when he did a talk at BAFTA. And David Attenborough is actually 99 years old today. So there you go. Everything's connected. Sorry, I don't know why I've just got this train of thought coming out, spewing out of me today. But
quick, now connect the Pope to it. Connect the new Pope to it.
The new Pope. Also, I guess, when you think about today is VE Day as well, on the day we're recording this, May 8th, the 80th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day. And again, I think that's obviously, when you look at a lot of the themes of Andor, to bring it back to what we're here to talk about, when you look at a lot of the themes, could be quite relevant, right, on a day like
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, news-wise, other than the card Mum made me and Memory Lane for that, and the new show Tales from the Underworld releasing, I don't really know of any other specific Star Wars news for this week, unless you guys do.
Not at all. I was just going to ask, does your R2 unit still work? Have you played with it so much?
Well, this one is actually a Bop It electronic game, but done in the R2, but in a scaled model of R2D2. But I have to say, I quite like it because the detailing and the proportions and all of that sort of thing are actually quite spot on. So yeah, again, total child, but those are things, icons from early childhood, right? And never lose them. So,
if only, because I could reach over and get my not to scale R2D2 Lego that I got as well. But I'll see if there's an interlude later on, and I can grab it there. But yeah,
I'll waffle on when I thank the maker, like I usually do, and I put a slide up for that. So there might be a moment there to go on a stealth rebel mission to go get the Lego R2D2 and feed that in. But before we do, I think I've done enough talking, and so do the audience probably. So, Graham, you may fire when ready.
Oh, we begin episode 7, Messenger, on the subtropical, peaceful, and soon-to-be famous Yavin 4, already housing the secret rebel base. But is it yet the Rebel Alliance? Cassian and Bix are back to playing happy families, with Cassian pining for an exit from all the fighting and to make decisions for himself. But as we all know, this is a pipe dream. Bix knows it too. She has her faith compounded when a force healer, no less, is drawn to Cassian. Cassian is a messenger, but we get no more clarity other than Cassian's clarity or something. Anyway, Mystic Star Wars comes to Andor. And then we are planted firmly in the middle of Parmo. Tougher than Daedra Imperial bastards set up camp, replete with snares, scars, sacrificial lambs to the slaughter, snipers, stormtroopers, and KS units. If you weren't scared before, you should be now. Out on the crowded street, members of the Gorman Front disagree on whether to protest silently or vocally. Is it right to protest, or is it a trap? Either way, we feel the Imperial troops have a true stranglehold on the Gore. What's as poignant is the propaganda machine that is in full flow. Roles are reversed through the media. Imperial troops are the patriots, the Gore insurgents, or backed by rebel insurgents. Through this and the next episode, Who Are You?, the tension and build-up is interlaced with Cassian and Wilman again undercover, there to assassinate Daedra Miro from orders of the puppet master Luthen, apparently Cassian's final mission, and with Cyril's realization that he has been played fully by Daedra, the ISB and Imperial military. Cyril is a man conflicted. Whilst we see the slightly more protective side of Daedra, she's still Imperial through and through. She has orders. And so, on the Gorman, powder keg is set, the tension cranked up to an almost unbearable limit, and the worst we can imagine for the Gore becomes a hideous reality. And yet, before the fuse is lit, what was an angry crowd becomes a patriotic, unified mass of peoples. But the time of peace has run out. An Imperial sniper guns down an Imperial guard. Cue retaliation. We, Cassian, Wilman and Cyril are caught in the maelstrom. Whilst the Gorman front fight back, Imperial forces are too many. Innocents on both sides lose their lives. Even though shocked by the horrors happening all around him, Cyril spots Cassian, goes berserk and attacks him. The fight Cyril always wanted takes effect. Both fight hard. Cyril gets the upper hand, but it takes a shot to the head from the previously peaceful leader of the Gorman front. Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion, deals with the aftermath of the Gorman massacre and another sizable sacrifice for one of our main characters. The brutally violent events in Pamo are reported as insurgency, with Imperial troops the victims, martyrs the fallen brave. These messages are amplified through bloviated rhetoric in the Imperial Senate, but not by Mon Mothma. With help from the heroic Bail Organa, Luthen Claire, Mon's assistant Erskine, Jobsworth door technicians, and more spectacularly Cassian, Mon is able to make a speech that ends her life on Coruscant and risks her life entirely. This is when Mon joins the rebellion, and when she experienced the down and dirty sharp end of rebellion, when Andor kills to ease their escape from the Senate, which includes Mon's Imperial spy driver Cloris, it all becomes clear to her. But we are not yet done with this episode. Back on Yavin for awaiting, Cassian continues with his pipe dream to run away to somewhere peaceful with Bix. And Bix makes a sacrifice of her own, one where she chooses the rebellion, leaving Cassian, literally and figuratively, to stay and continue the fight. As a distraught Cassian deals with Bix's decision, he is called upon to supervise the rebirth of the KS unit that he had taken from Gorman. Welcome to the rebellion, K2SO. There's no doubt we'll be tuning in for the final 3 installments of Andor next week.
Yay, well done, Graham. Yeah.
Puffy one, that one. Yeah, that was
and really good stuff as well. Really, yeah. Well,
a lot to get. Yeah, a lot to unpack. And yes, indeed.
Right. Well, we will do so, but first, we'll quickly thank the maker. Okay, so this episode, in fact, these 3 episodes were written by Dan Gilroy, who's Tony's brother. I think it's great. You know, they're a family of siblings that all work in as filmmakers, you know, in the entertainment business. It's quite enviable, but yes, Tony has worked, you know, quite closely with Dan over the years. So he wrote these 3 episodes and did, I think, a fabulous job of that. But we have a new director to Star Wars Andor for this. We have Janis Metz, who's a Danish film director, and joins the family, if you like, now of Star Wars directors for this series. Looking at some of his previous credits, they go back to the late 90s, where he did an episode of the TV series of Clash of the Titans. I wasn't even aware there was a TV series of Clash of the Titans in 1996, but there you go. He did that. He did a few TV movies, Love on Delivery, Our War, etc., and then got very much into TV land, doing episodes of POV and True Detective. So really earned some stripes there. And brings us up to these latest 3 episodes for Andor. So fabulous work there from Janis Metz. As I said, he joins the ranks and does a fabulous job. Now, this season, we've actually got a different composer. I'm always trying to talk about people we haven't spoken in depth about last season when we covered a lot of the various cast members and crew members. But we've got Brandon Roberts, still using some of the themes that were established in the previous season of Andor. Brian's composer credits, again, they go back to 2016, where he did the Shallows. He did some additional music on the film Logan. They Killed My Father, The Snowman, A Quiet Place, Free Solo, A Quiet Place Part 2, Without Remorse, Fear Streets Part 1 and 3, the thriller Deep Water, and the film The Nun 2. So, he has done some other credits and whatever there that add to this and complement some of the work that was previously done on other seasons. So, Phil, that's always fair to mention. Great work, these guys, for bringing more richness to the Star Wars universe.
Totally, and thankfully you brought up Brandon Roberts. I've been massively impressed, and I've loved the soundtrack to this season already. I think, I'm not sure if you guys agree, that genre-wise he's really been quite broad, but also to different tones of each of the 3 episodes. He's taken us from the through Spycraft to a bit more Mission Impossible to Day of the Jackal type sounds and music there. But also he's taken Nicholas Patel's themes and really played with, either used them in full or played with them as well. So there's been a lot of creativity there, and I've gone back to even the opening titles. I've been rewatching them because I just love what's happening there too. But he's been a real revelation for me. And because these days you can get all of Andor season 1's soundtrack, you can pick that up online and play through. And now season 2, I think, has cranked it up and actually been a lot more diverse, a lot more interesting too. So I'm absolutely loving it. It's good to be able to just chat about that. And even taking the Niamos theme. You remember the dance theme? Yeah, we talked about it in episode 3.
Yeah,
that's now become a massive hit online too. Whether there is even, I think that in the first couple of days, somebody managed to edit and splice together an hour-long version. So if you want to trip around your your houses, your apartments, the park, I don't know, maybe even the pub, you can do for at least an hour there. So it's
I did download that version, not the hour-long one, but just the version of the song. But I did like the way it was. I know we're going back now, but I did like the way it was used and intercut between the wedding and the fleeing the planet was very good. But, cool. All right. Well, have you got your drinks ready? There we go. Got my mug, staying on target with the agenda here. Okay, it's time for some Bantha Milk Blue. Alrighty, so just a bit of fun, as the sound effect suggests. Just a bit of fun. Not taking this too seriously. I say this every week, but there are channels that actually specialize in hour and a half long videos, just talking about all of the references and Easter eggs and connections to other parts of the Star Wars universe, etc. Obviously, from a visual and audible perspective, there will be, we've literally got this story taking place in that world. So yes, there are lots of references, but was there anything in particular that stood out for you guys?
I'll just say it quick. That robot is from Rogue One. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, we get K2SO from Rogue One. Absolutely. Anything for you, Graham, in particular? There was one that I thought, this is going to please Graham. because you've mentioned it a couple of times on other episodes, and it kind of came true.
Go on.
Stan, okay, I'll ping up the slide. So we got your mate Melchi.
There he is. Yeah. He's one of the spots, one of the finds there for. Yep, definitely. I was so we hope to see more of him.
Yeah.
Who is that? Yeah.
So he was actually in Rogue One. He was part of the assault team that Cassian Andor assembles in Rogue One, and obviously he did appear in the prison scenes in whatever last year as well in season 1. So they brought him back, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, as someone who is not super familiar, that whole segment, I was like, well, this is taking a long time and I don't get it, but okay. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. You didn't pick up on that.
The introduction of Melchi into, so he wrote. So I think that this is going to happen where we're going to have more Rogue One characters being introduced.
I should watch Rogue One again before next week, is what you're saying.
Of course. Well, no.
No, afterwards.
Yes, you wait until we finish these 3, segue into Rogue One, which naturally segues into Star Wars.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, definitely. Anyway, I'm going to be very tempted to go straight from, the final episode next week, and then go straight to Rogue One, just to see how seamless it is. Well, again, we'll get into that later when we start talking about our thoughts and whatever. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I thought was interesting as well is sort of I put this down as a sort of reference here, a sort of Easter egg, is obviously with Andor, we've always managed to have part of the established Star Wars universe, but that doesn't necessarily center around the Force and lightsabers and things of that nature. But they did sort of break their rules slightly here, but I thought it worked in quite a good way by bringing in a Force healer played by Josie Walker on this, and we see this Force healer that tries to help Cassian with his blaster wound, but also kind of feels that he's there for a purpose, almost like he's a sort of an apostle or something in this story, which we all know where it goes, and we all know that to be sort of true. But I don't know, did you guys have any thoughts on this character and bringing a touch of the Force to this show?
I like that they. Oh, sorry, Grant. I like that they brought the Force into it, right? Because I think that's a big part of Star Wars. I also liked how they did it, right? You obviously can't have a Jedi, but you could still have somebody who is sensitive to the Force. And I think that it was used effectively for playing up the sort of growing rift between Bix and Cassian.
Yes. No, definitely.
Yeah, what Pete said.
And we've seen Force healers, obviously Grogu is shown those abilities in The Mandalorian, and then in obviously the sequels, Rey uses it, so it's not like it's something new. It is something we've seen before, but it fits quite nicely into this storytelling, I think. What about you, Graham? Any thoughts?
Yeah. What Pete said.
Fair enough. Any other ones springing to mind?
There could easily be with all the senators from whichever planets. I couldn't see any reference, as in I didn't recognize any references. But then again, there's a lot potentially in novels, just canon, and the I want to say Rebels or any of the other animated series, so that could be there, but that could just be through ignorance, through not having seen or read any further stories. So it wouldn't surprise me that it was deliberate to have recognized Star Wars characters and planets mentioned. Yeah, the thing I would say is it's not an Easter egg per se, but I did notice in the credits that again, Liam Cook, the actor, who we never kind of see his face because he's always behind makeup, he was actually one of the speaking senators. And he's actually been through Andor season 2 as various characters. And I think he also plays Saw Gerrera's, one of his lieutenants, the one, I can't remember his name now. I should remember this.
Is this like the Jeffrey Combs of Star Wars? Is it?
yeah, exactly that. And why not? But yeah, Liam Cook's name popped up again. Oh, I know. Yeah, damn, why can't I remember his name? Me and names. I'll remember after this, and then I'll bring it up out of context next week.
I think
he plays Saw Gerrera's one of his lieutenant guards. You know the guy with the pipes and the long gun, was also in Rogue One. So yeah, it's brilliant that they do have that. They do have a recurring actor at least that we can spot, and then obviously forget character names with it.
Good work if you can get it. Good work if you can get it. I got a few more. So obviously we have Gold Squadron mentioned in this. Obviously, Gold Squadron were very key in A New Hope. Obviously, they were part of the Death Star attack run with the Y-wing fighters. So they get mentioned and name dropped in this. So I thought that was one of them. We also get General Draven, who I've got pictured there, sort of. Well, if you're watching this, I've got it pictured sort of in the middle there. General Draven obviously appeared in Rogue One as well. So, they've used him again in this, and they've got the same actor, Alistair Petrie, I think is the name of the actor, has returned to reprise the role, which is fantastic. They also mention over the speakers, or they mention in one of the scenes General Dodonna, which again was a character in who delivered the Death Star plans in A New Hope, and we also see a version of him in Rogue One as well. From a continuity point of view, that's quite cool. Also, as you mentioned, Pete, of course, we get K2SO in this, as well as other droid models like him. So again, returning or having the origin story. Apparently, it does contradict a comic story where we see how Andor and K2SO were supposed to have met, but this kind of contradicts that. But they can't be a slave to all of the canon, right? And obviously, we get Andor's U-wing fighter in this as well, which again was seen in Rogue One, and also the sniper rifle that he uses, which I loved because that was very spy thriller, Day of the Jackal type stuff. But that is the same sniper rifle that he uses to target Galen Erso in Rogue One as well. So it's again a bit of continuity there as far as that goes. So that was pretty cool. Obviously, there's probably dozens of others, but one of the main things I wanted to talk about, and this is where Graham will probably find this quite interesting, is this actually does dovetail perfectly into Star Wars Rebels, which I was a fan of. And specifically, in fact, you could go and watch it now or after you've listened to this or after we've recorded this. It's a half an hour. It's less than half an hour, but if you go to Rebels Season 3, Episode 18, which is called Secret Cargo, and that deals exactly with Gold Squadron dropping Mon Mothma off with the Rebels crew, and, they take her to Dantooine, which is obviously mentioned as being where when Leia lies to Tarkin about where the Rebel base is. Dantooine was an earlier Rebel base before Yavin. but they take her there so that she can complete the speech and does the speech and everything. So that does dovetail perfectly in with that episode. The idea was Rebels was always supposed to take place, in the 5 years before Star Wars: A New Hope, very much the same as Andor does. And, each season was sort of concurrent with a year of that. I think it ran for four seasons in total. And, the idea is it's a big galaxy, and Rebels, those stories are taking place in another part of the galaxy with a group of young rebels, as in the characters in that, dealing with, things that eventually join up, and you do see a few of the characters and the ship in Rogue One eventually. So a lot of these characters have now been done in live action, so it does make me wonder whether we might see them before the end of the show. I don't know. I don't think we necessarily need to, but Tony Gilroy and the team there have obviously respected and made this connect in a perfect way with that. So that's quite well thought out. Also, I never realized this, but the character of Erskine that's been Mon Mothma's aide in this is also in Rebels as her aide in this particular episode. So I didn't realize that was a carryover character. And obviously Genevieve O'Reilly does voice Mon Mothma in this episode as well. The only thing that doesn't quite connect the dots is they've got her with the short hairdo, the Rogue One / Return of the Jedi Mon Mothma hairdo. But bearing in mind that, the animated figures are stylized anyway, with oversized eyes and plasticine type hair and everything anyway, I don't think that really matters or counts as a continuity error in any way. So yeah, I would recommend anybody out there check out before next week's episode, check out Rebels Season 3 Episode 18 Secret Cargo, which is also available on Disney Plus. Check that out, and it does sort of dovetail quite nicely with this and gives you that episode, that story. The other thing was there was a few line drops in this. Obviously, "It's a trap" is mentioned, which is the famous Admiral Akbar line. But also, what really connects things up is the clerk at the hotel that remembers Andor, the one he stayed at previously and comes back to. He mentions about how rebellions are built on hope, and that is a line that Cassian says to Jen Erso in Rogue One, and she says it when she gives her speech to the rebellion or the Rebel Alliance, that rebellions are built on hope. So I thought that was quite a nice connection / Easter egg as well. So any thoughts, chaps? Sorry, I realise I talked a lot there.
No, that's brilliant, Keith. Obviously, I spotted all of those as well. So, but I just couldn't steal your thunder. Isn't that right, Pete?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure there are hundreds more, but those ones. The thing about Rebels was a show that I did actually quite enjoy, and in fact, it was the first thing that was produced under Disney, and it was obviously sort of aimed as a sort of kids show, so very, very tonally different to this show. But I do think it's quite clever how the writing staff and the writing team have made it that it still works and it doesn't contradict anything. If anything, it sort of complements it. And definitely
complementing. Yeah,
I just thought that was pretty cool. So
everything I've seen of Rebels, which is mostly first season, some smatterings of choice episodes, which I now will include and will watch. Secret Cargo. Thanks for that. Has been really decent. The audience is slightly different than me, but it's by no means it has not been poor.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that just makes the Star Wars galaxy seem bigger, and I'm all for that. But at the same time, from a chronology point of view, it's nice that they managed to sort of make these work within the same part of the timeline, if you like, and for it to make sense. So
early days of MCU comes to mind. Yeah, I think things intertwined, wove brilliantly, and now, well, let's move on.
Now you have to do lots of homework. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about speculation and things today. I know we don't usually, so let's go with never tell me the odds, or is it I've got a bad feeling about this? Okay, well, I'm going to go there just because I think maybe. So, do you think? I mean, these guys. Okay, again, for the people listening on on the podcast, I've got a slide up which has basically got a picture of some legacy characters. We've got Grand Moff Tarkin, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, and the Emperor Palpatine. And I'm just wondering. I mean, they've done everything very stylish in this, but these are all characters that do appear in Rogue One. Sorry, apart from the Emperor. Sorry, but three of these four characters appear in Rogue One, and I'm just wondering, do you think that they will do that? Also, we mentioned Galen Erso earlier, played by Mads Mikkelsen. Do you think there's a chance that any of those characters might get seen in this year's jump that we're going to have to the events leading up to Rogue One?
I think not. I think we will see more Rogue One characters, including Erso. I definitely see that happening. It to be a surprise if we don't see Jen Erso in some way, because and another appearance by Saw Gerrera. That would be fitting. I think these three personally will really push towards Rogue One and really almost be the full background to Rogue One. If not, I'm not sure. I know there's speculation out there, but these may segue quite cleanly, nicely into Rogue One, and its beginning as a story at least. But I'd be highly surprised, more kind of shocked really, if any of these four do, because other than the Emperor pulling the strings in the background and us hearing and having the spectre of him within Andor, I think it'd be a shame to have them in, because Andor has been so much its own story with its own characters. Obviously, again, I repeat myself with them saying Rogue One, but it was only right at the end, really, that you got Vader and Leia, and that worked brilliantly for Rogue One to tell its own story. So those are my thoughts, Keith.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Pete? Is it something you've got a bad feeling about?
Yeah, I do feel, I think, a little bit differently. I think that, the Emperor isn't in Rogue One, which means that he could very much show up here in the last 3 episodes. I don't think that they would have Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, or Leia. And then the Galen Erso's daughter, right?
Jen. Yeah.
Jen. She should show up, I think, right? Because we're seeing Saw Gerrera, and at this point, am I misremembering? But isn't Saw Gerrera like taking care of her at this point?
Well, no. They basically they apprehend her to go on a mission to talk to Sol Guerrera. That's kind of how she. To be honest, she is the one that I think is the least likely to appear.
Oh, really?
Just because she comes into Rogue One, a little bit into that story, even though she is, essentially the lead. But Cassian has a mission before they apprehend her. So I don't necessarily think we will see her. I think we're more likely to see Galen Erso, her dad, with Krennic, and possibly. You see, out of all of these, I think one of the most likely ones, and they've done it before, would be Tarkin. I'm not saying they should, but I just wonder, he is so instrumental as to the Death Star, and taking control of the Death Star. It does make me wonder. I don't know. It depends how. I guess it depends how much it's going to dovetail into Rogue One.
I think we definitely will get almost in true Star Trek, guys. Is that we will have an appearance from the Death Star. And I think without a doubt, that is we got that post credit scene right at the end of Andor season 1, Death Star.
Yeah.
Rogue One is about the plans of Death Star, etc., etc. So Star Trek's always bringing up a version of the Enterprise, right? There's always the ship as the extra character.
Yes.
The love of many a captain's life, but maybe the Death Star being the love of a Grand Moff's life should be there too, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe
isn't the bigger question, when do we get to see the Bothans and the many of them that are going to die?
Yeah, but that's not till the second Death Star, Pete. That's in pre-Return of the Jedi. Yeah, they're the ones who get they're the ones who get the shuttle Tidarium and the location of the Death Star in orbit of Endor and all of that sort of stuff. So the Bothans, which I'm not sure if we've even seen Bothans yet. I don't know, but that could be another adventure. I mean, they're filling in all the gaps, so why not do an intercrawl between like they did Shadows of the Empire, they did in the novels. So which is now obviously Legends in the old EU. But maybe, who knows? And maybe, we've had live action versions of most of the Rebels even, but again, I don't know if this show needs all that, and it's got a lot to pack in still anyway, hasn't it? So I just thought I'd put it out there for discussion. But,
I think somebody's going to get shot. Somebody is somebody's going to restyle Mon Mothma's hair, because it has to be done ready for Rogue One. So we may get an appearance from a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Definitely going to have that. Someone's going to have to restyle and be a hairdresser to Saw Gerrera, because he has hair now, or spiky hair, unless it falls out from all the gas sniffing of Rhydonium he does as well. So there's going to be that if he makes an appearance, for continuity, of course. I think a lot of that's going to happen, really.
Yes. All right. Well, let's get into our viewpoints from a certain point of view. All right, guys. So this is really the bit where we just talk about our thoughts about the episode in general, the production, the writing, the continuity, any nitpicks, all of that stuff. So who wants to jump in with their thoughts so far?
Okay, so I think as the resident least informed, least intelligent on the subject, I will go first. But these are really good episodes, I think, and we are getting a lot of different stuff. Each episode has been sort of different and telling different parts of the story, and I've been really impressed with how many different types of stories and different types of genres they're giving us. Right, the rescue of Mon Mothma from the Senate floor, with Cassian and the various operators, was I thought fantastic. Like a great scene out of any spy thriller. The sorry, I'm not good with character names, but Cyril, right, the Cyril story,
Yeah.
and watching sort of him go through the battle on Gorm was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really impressed.
Agree.
Yeah.
Graham?
Yeah, same. Everything about these was there was a build up, and there was so much foreshadowing previously about what was to happen on Gorman and Palmore, the city there. We'd had the scheme, the plan, all the way from episode 1 with Krennic and his Bond villain hideout there and getting all together. And each of the pieces there really did, either through us seeing it, for me feeling it too, but hearing it as well, all came to in that second episode, which made then the third episode a lot more surprising, because it wasn't just the aftermath of such an atrocity. It was, as you just said there, Pete, it was the extraction, as they called it, but all of that was just so tense and tight as well to get it off. And then Cassian's, he was all over the shop. He just wants out, but he's kept on being pulled back in. So his conflict is still being shown there. But yeah, there were 3 distinct episodes that just were pieced together, and for that, I'll have to go back and rewatch them, because I was mightily impressed by that. Because tonally, again, you've had 3 episodes being together, being quite tonally similar, but these weren't, and pace-wise as well. So it was thrilling, it was heartbreaking. Obviously, well, for me, it was frustrating as well, because of that they made a joke of it in episode 1 about the propaganda machine, but actually that came to its, for me, horrific side of that came in as well, with all the rhetoric and the like. But I do have then nitpicks on how that was depicted too, which I'll either pause there, or we'll get into them in a more anyway.
No, we will. I mean, this is, I honestly think this is, like Star Wars at its finest in many respects. I mean, the tension, how well this is written and how well the characters are developed, the multi-facets of these characters, and just it is very adult storytelling, in so much as, they don't tell us everything, but they show us a lot, and they take us down one path to realize something is actually different to what we thought. But I thought the actual massacre on Gorman was, I mean, God, it was so brutal. I could not believe how brutal it was. It was kind of, we've never seen anything like that in Star Wars, because yes, the clue is in the title. It's Star Wars. The movies, everything are about war, whether it's the Clone Wars or Imperials, rebels against the Empire, or Jedi and Sith or whatever, but it's always been, lightsaber fights and whatever are always somewhat stylized, and because of Jedi Knight's abilities and stuff, there's all the sort of acrobatics and stuff involved, whereas this was brutal and gritty and visceral. I mean, the one bit that I thought was quite upsetting was I'm just trying to think what the character's name was. She was part of the resistance on Gorman.
The daughter. Is she with the KS unit?
Yes, yeah. The fact that a KS unit picks her up and throws her, and she's dead on impact, as you would be with something like that. I mean, these SO units are like Terminators. It's just like that was brutal, but also the Imperials, like you had the green officers that were sent out prior to that, which were clearly scared, and their commander was trying to protect them, but the Imperial officer that sent in, that I've forgotten the character's name, the dude with the scar and whatever, was quite brutal and whatever, and sent them out, if you like, to cause the insurgents in the first place, to sort of justify sending out the snipers and the SO models and stuff, and it was I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, Jesus, this is Star Wars.
I call him Captain Bastard. Just if I can't remember a name, but no, the fact that a sniper is there to actually kill an Imperial riot police or trooper, basically to start it, I thought was quite hideous in its aim, and obviously it worked for their plan, and that was vicious. But again, it's you're looking at a fascist regime here, and that if you have to be despicable, do despicable. Don't talk about despicable. That's what it was, and that as a beginning point was a shock.
Yeah, Captain Kado. I think Captain Kado is the name of the character.
Yeah, I think Captain Bastard sounds has a better ring to it. I think it is more fitting.
Yeah. And I just thought some of the stuff, like, that obviously we lose a lot of characters in these episodes, which was inevitable, knowing where it all leads and knowing where Rogue One, where we start off with that. But the Cyril arc I found very interesting, because here was this guy that completely had the wool pulled over his eyes and had always been about, doing the correct thing.
In his eyes, albeit war.
In his eyes, but there he was, thinking that he was going to, infiltrate a rebel resistance unit and expose that unit, not, completely clueless to the fact that he was looking at genocide for the planet, and basically draining the planet of its life and its minerals and that sort of thing, and the betrayal that you could see that he felt at the hands of Dedra on that whole thing. And
but I thought it was.
I love the way she threw it back at him as well. Like, you weren't complaining when there was the promotions and the status and all that. You weren't complaining. I thought she was going to say, and the sex at one point, but this was, and then when he sees Cassian, who very much, when you sort of track it back to season 1, Cassian was the catalyst for this entire thing for him. And I just thought, I mean, wow, he held his own against Andor actually in that fight. But the fact that, you know, the who are you, you know, or who are you, you know, Andor's like, who the hell is this guy? And there's almost like that minute of realization for Cyril when he just does lower the weapon for just a moment as that sinks in before he gets shot in the head. And I just sort of thought, wow, what an arc that was. I know this is all supposed to have happened over a 5-year period, and we're, you know, seeing it in 3 weeks or whatever, but it's still like, wow. 3-year period, I'm guessing, what we've seen in the last 3 weeks, isn't it? But and his mum, you know, we've gone from something I found very interesting with how complex and detailed and nuanced that this has been not only written but performed as well, is we go from a couple of weeks back almost like a situation comedy with Dedra, Cyril, and Cyril's mum, right, to the absolute heartbreak when she's watching this on the holo stream or whatever they call it in Star Wars, on TV, and she sees the cast of you know, the massacre and comes to the realization that, you know, her son is probably lost in that. And I just you know, and that's just one character. I mean, this is happening with all the characters, but I'm sorry, I'm sort of waxing lyrical and going off one here, but thoughts on that?
No, but absolutely, it was, in the end they twisted around so that there was actually an element of tragedy to his loss. There was poignancy as to who killed him and why, and in fact, it was almost, not quite, a conscientious objector. So the leader of the Gorman front, the resistance there, who steps into Cassian's aid. So there's that. But then I thought that Denise Gough playing Dedra Meero, her reactions all throughout for fighting back at him when she tells him the truth, but then after she knows he's out in the on the plaza and all the deaths are happening and it's probably him, and then she just, it's the first time you've seen her the more human side of her, because she's always been the ambitious, cruel person, and now it's happened back to her, and the way she has to just literally pull herself together, I thought was astonishing, absolutely astonishing. How forget the acting for a second, just as a character, just has, you know, she is the one who gave the order. She was forced to in some ways. She didn't have to. She's put in that position, but then she's the one afterwards who has to deal with that aftermath. If we're looking at potential for next time round, what is going to be her end of character arc as well? Because obviously she's had to try to hold together. Does she crack at all, or, you know, does she rise through the ranks for
or does she go and join the Rebel Alliance?
I'm not. I thought that from season 1, Pete, but I don't think so. I think it's going to be interesting where they take her, because I just thought that scene where she literally is having to just piece herself together. None of this old-fashioned, you know, a bit of lipstick, you know, and getting her hair all together. It was, right, heartbroken, I need to be tough, be the leader here. It was minimalist, and I think that's the main part about it. You know, she could have just absolutely exploded, but she just kept it all in to keep that edge to her almost. And that obviously coupled with Cyril's, again, I think it was a tragic end to his life, even though he was the the Wally really. But yeah, he was played by people who were badderer than he was.
Yeah. Maybe she'll just end up on the Death Star and then she will explode.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry, Pete. Did you want to add something there? Did you want to jump in with something, or am I?
I don't remember it. I don't remember. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
The other thing, you said about tragedy, and the other thing that I think is very tragic and has gone in a different way, or it looks like it's going a different way to what I was expecting, is Bix's arc, because we've got somebody here that was basically tortured in season 1. Her character's been assaulted and abused as well in this. But the most tragic thing of all is, we've assumed to now, and it still might, but we've assumed that she died prior to Rogue One. But I actually think her fate might be even worse, because I think that based on the message she left for Cassian, knowing that he's, from what the Force healer said, knowing that he's on this journey, and it could be for a reason, things happen for a reason, and but she said she'll see him when it's all over. But of course, we know that she won't. Yeah, and does this mean that she'll just end up in the galaxy post, Rogue One or New Hope or whatever, and just never know what happened to Andor? Just never know. We'll never see him again. But worse, we'll never know why she never sees him again. Have I missed something there, or is that how you were reading that as well?
Potentially, I thought. Yeah, I thought there was a message of hope there. That's what she's saying, that when it's over, they get together. But
we know that doesn't happen.
I was going to say, but they won't.
She has ties to the rebels, so they through dispatches she would find out what happened to him and that he will die a hero. So I think it's interesting what you say there. And yes, in part it is tragic, because she will that was her goodbye, and it is actually a forever goodbye. But it's not for her to know that at all. But I think she would find out what happened to him, and then she'd be able to grieve for him rather than just trying to find him, as it were. Yeah.
Yeah. And it made me think, I mean, obviously, when we first see him in Rogue One, the first thing he does is shoot a man in the back. It's kind of like the first thing he does. And of course, he does it loads throughout this series. And it's well, that's how the series began. But it's interesting. I kind of laugh when I think about all the controversy and faff around who shot first in the cantina and all of that. And if it was Andor, you'd know the answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had his own Han Solo moment as well in episode 7, where he was running off with the cargo ship, being asked to stay in the rebellion, and say no. It was back to that, I just do this for money. So I felt that was a bit of a Han Solo moment there, because he's trying to pull away, as Han Solo always trying to pull away, never be a part of the rebellion. But as we know, even though he has a captain title in already, he does become fully. So yeah, there's a bit of Han Solo vibes happening with him there.
Yeah, it's. I mean, seriously,
I'd like to bring up, if that's okay, a couple of nitpicks I'd like to bring up just to see your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, one was I know it became an easier way to depict how the propaganda was being shown, but it was quite BBC, NBC, or whichever other news networks there are in the United States too, with the cameras and the reporters. I thought that was a bit too modern Earth to be in a galaxy far, far, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I just thought that took me out of it a bit, because there are different ways of depicting that. But I understand it's quicker, easier to do it. It's like when we were watching. Oh gosh, what was the? Tell me what episode 1 of Star Wars is called again.
A New Hope.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Oh, Phantom
and then
Menace.
You've got those bloody idiot commentators for the pod racing. It's like, what are you doing? Why does that have to be in Star Wars? Right? Star Wars has been a little more unique. But anyway, so that was something that took me out of Andor, because it's like, oh, actually, they wouldn't be like that, because they're usually dealing with holograms and all the rest of it. But anyway, so that was a tiny nitpick, that one. The second one was the use of the word shit. And I was like, wait a minute, this is the Star Wars galaxy, right? And Bail Organa tells Mon Mothma to, I don't know, rip the shit, smack the shit, talk the shit out of something. Anyway, he used the word, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Non Star Wars swearing. What does the Mandalorian say?
Puda, is it Puda or something? Pudu or something? That we should,
we should remember this, but we're getting old and our memories are failing us. But no, that was another one that kind of made me go, oh, that doesn't belong, which would surprise me again.
Yeah. One of the things, again, it's kind of.
Thanks, Eric.
This is a really unimportant nitpick, but it is a nitpick. I just wonder when we watch this with, Rogue One immediately after, whether it's going to be a bit jarring. Is Bail Organa has now become the Savick of Star Wars. And what I mean there is, with Star Trek, prior to, because we have to mention Star Trek, right? We look at the name of the show.
Contractually obligated.
We have to, but until the reboot, there basically all of the actors, all of the continuity with actors was until the reboot, and obviously they've done it twice since the reboot, but was just the same actors. The continuity was there, so you had the original 7 plus some of the supporting characters, and you had even guest stars like Mark Leonard and Jane Wyatt as Sarek and Amanda, and of course Ricardo Montalban as Khan, and all this. You had the same actors, older, but coming back, and you had that sort of thread of continuity through everything. But the thing with Savick was, I always found it, I respected both actors that portrayed Savick, whether it was Kirstie Alley or Robin Curtis, but it always bothered me as a kid in so much as I never did buy that they were the same person, because obviously they weren't, right? They were a different actor portraying that. And again, I love Jimmy Smits, and I think Benjamin Bratt is awesome, right? But again, we've got this problem that, because it is a recast, and we talked a little bit about it last week, but I'm going to have a hard time believing that it's the same character, that Bail Organa is the same character with the actor thing. It's just a shame. It's just one of those things, I guess. But and it's nothing against, as I said, as with the Savick thing, I like and respect both actors and what they do with the character and all of that sort of thing. But it's just from a nitpicky continuity point of view, it's just a little blip in it, and we've got this here. Am I being sad? I'm being sad, aren't I?
No, we say, and then we say it's okay because Disney probably have a deep fake technology, which we talked about last week. So whichever way they go, they'll probably, in Rogue One when Jimmy Smith makes an appearance, they'll just Benjamin Bratt it. They'll have to thin him up a bit. I noticed that Jimmy Smith is a bit broader in the shoulders, shall we say, than Benjamin Bratt.
Yeah. No, it is a stupid nitpick, I know, but I do think that the whole Star Wars thing again, they need to make a decision about how they do these things, because on one hand they do this CGI stuff like they've done with Tarkin and Luke and stuff like that, but then they do recasts like they did with Han Solo and Lando, and now that it's just kind of pick one, and rather than messing around with two different ways of doing it, pick one and stick with it. Do you know what I mean? It's but
Captain Continuity, that's the badge I need to get for you.
Yeah, you're right. I do I do nitpick about that stuff, but that's part of the fun of it all.
It is indeed. Wouldn't have you any other way.
But I don't really have any other than that silly one. I just think that honestly, this to me, I'm so impressed with the production and the writing and the performances, and just everything about this show is just wow. And
do you feel that this time
definitely Star Wars for adults and not for kids? but
did you find that the Coruscant scenes, especially the Senate, were extraordinary? Only in their scale as well as design. It was unbelievable. They had so much going on that I felt that they were in this gigantic building, and where they were, and there was all these beautiful and fun shots, even of spiral staircases or angles of the architecture from the outside, the inside, different rooms within all of these different buildings, even the telecoms room to Supervisor What's-His-Face. There, all of that was staggering, and I think just in its scale.
Oh yeah, well, I mean they've used a lot of real locations as well in this part. That they've obviously enhanced or whatever with visual effects, but
even look at Palmo and the square. If that's real, that's a massive set too, or at least a massive. It looks as if to be outdoors, unless they were actually using machines. You can see when people are walking, their hair, and with the longer hair, their hair was moving, so it seemed as if they were outdoors. There's all these little things that you just notice watching it just on a reasonably sized screen that I have here. Even if they've built that, as in a set on outdoors somewhere on planet Earth to depict Palmo, that's massively impressive too. Much props.
In the first episode that Graham and I did, which you weren't on, we talked a little bit about, or in fact, we talked at length about, how the Star Wars universe is big enough to tell lots of different stories and have lots of different themes and tones and everything, but just set within that galaxy with the technology and worlds and things that we are familiar to that galaxy, but just tell different stories and whatever. And I just wondered, I mean, what are your thoughts on, we were talking about, is it necessary with a lot of these big franchises now, whether it's Star Wars, Star Trek, Marvel, DC, whatever, is it necessary to be a completist nowadays and to see everything, or is it okay to just have your bits of it and your head canon and what works for you? And I just wondered how you feel about that, Pete.
I think I align with what you guys said in that first episode, which is that.
Oh, you listened to it, did you? Okay.
Oh yeah. I don't think you need to be a completist, right? I think it's okay to dip in and out. I think that it's great that so much content is being made, and I think it's great that content can be made for, specific audiences. And I think there's always been work that I feel like, well, this isn't really made for me, so I'm gonna dip out of it. And that's great. Sorry. Well,
You're okay? Oh.
sorry. I had to stifle a cough, and then I muted so I could cough it out. Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry about that. What I was saying is that I think that if they wanted to make a soap opera, right, like a daytime soap opera set in the Star Wars universe, they should go ahead and do it. Because I'm sure some people would love it. I would not watch it. It's not my jam. If they wanted to do the Star Wars equivalent of Grey's Anatomy, then they should go right to it. I'm gonna stay checked out of that. Because I think that one of the things that we really like about Andor here is that they gave this group of creatives a chance to tell a story, and it's working for us. It might not work for other people. That's fine. I don't think it negates any part of it. And the more diversity and the more options you have, the better off you are. Yeah, it does put the onus back on us as the consumers to say like, yeah, this one's not for me. I'm not going to engage. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't been keeping tabs, actually. There's obviously a lot of discourse out there online about all of this sort of thing, but I haven't really been keeping tabs on if the show's doing well or not, because over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people have left Star Wars. Well, me included to a certain extent. There's a couple of series I haven't watched since Ahsoka, because I did feel very let down by that show, and people have tuned out. But I don't know if people are tuning in for this. They certainly should, I think. But then I would say that because it's my jam. This spy espionage spy things. And set in the Star Wars universe, making it a sort of Star Wars thriller, spy thriller is totally my jam. So yeah.
Well,
just looking.
Sorry.
I was going to say, no, I've heard that if it wasn't last week's bunch, if not the first bunch of episodes, has had its one of the highest viewing figures on Disney Plus global, and I only noticed earlier over here in the UK, the Disney Plus there has its top 10. Loads of the streaming platforms have their top 10 this week.
Yes,
and Andor is still there at number 1 for the UK because it has that up there. So it's it's still being viewed, or it has high viewing figures. The way to say it. So it is successful, and especially this season round as well. Sorry, Pete.
No, I was going to say I did a quick Google search, and it says that Andor season 2 is doing very well.
Yeah,
in general, and all of the reviews and such that I've seen online have also been glowing.
Great.
Okay, is that a fault on your screen?
It's my new glasses. I got new glasses. Yeah, some things glow. I don't know. It's weird.
Cool.
I want what you're having.
Yes. I almost feel. I mean, this whole season, because I try and get this show out. Obviously, we try and get these out as close to the episodes airing as possible, you know, and just kind of get it done and get it out there and all of this sort of thing. But I've only had the opportunity to watch it the once, and I feel like I need to go back and watch all, because I feel like everything is so dense, both visually and storytelling wise and performance wise, and it's so much stuff that I feel that I am probably missing stuff. I feel like I need to and I don't, because again, we're back to this thing of there's so much content to watch and a lot of good quality stuff out there, but I find that as a result of that, nowadays, we always talk about consumption models and all this sort of thing, but I tend not to do too much repetitive viewing like I used to. Like back when I was a kid, I would watch episodes of Star Trek, over and over and over and over and over and over again, like literally just keep watching it, and the same with movies and stuff. Whereas now, if a movie has a big impact on me, I may go and see it 3 or 4 times at the cinema, during its run. But often, like shows, especially streaming shows and whatever, I tend to watch, literally consume it and then not see it again. Then a lot of stuff forget about quite soon afterwards. And I don't know, with this, I feel that I almost owe it to the filmmakers and to myself to go back and study this some more. I mean, I've watched Rogue One quite a few times, and I feel that I should do the same with this show. But have you guys managed to watch it more than the once, or have you just
no? We're doing these, almost
a day after.
A day after, right? Yeah. And so I only have time to watch it once. That was going to be my only nitpick, was I wish they'd spaced out dropping a little bit, because I feel like we get those 3 episodes and I'm racing through 1, 2, 3. Whereas if we had even a couple of days between each episode, if they wanted to drop 3 a week, just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday or something, so that I can have more time with it. I also, I was thinking about it. For you guys, it must come out like in the middle of the night, right?
No, it drops at 7. I think it's 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. something like that over here. It's always a bit weird with these, but again, this is quite different, because this has been like a bit of a hybrid model. So we find that shows either drop in their entirety on a streaming platform, and then you can binge it or watch it however you want, or it's one of these like with the aforementioned, we mentioned at the beginning, Dexter Original Sin, and that was great because that would drop weekly, and it'll be something to look forward to the next episode weekly. Whereas this has been great that we get 2.5 hours of Star Wars a week, but like you said, this kind of hybrid where it's like sort of 4 lots of 3 episodes. It's kind of a in between. Again, it's
it is. It's a half binge for us. We're having to binge, but 3 at a time. I'm glad for it, because they've been each of the endings of the episode, the single episodes. I look forward to see the next, and then we get to the 3rd. Don't forget that this week we had so it worked out at around 2 hours. I think it was it was over 2.5 hours worth of viewing. So each time it's been like 220, 240. So it's like watching a fairly lengthy movie, if you think about it, and having to then watch that split for me. I try and watch it in the morning, and then I've got a day's work and family life, and then I kick my family out into the garden, and then I have the living room to myself, and then I get I'm kidding. They go to bed, and then I watch but it's 2 hours 32 hours 40 to do that and then chat with you guys on this as well. So it is quite hefty, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this obviously to you guys, and obviously anyone who's listening or watching, if there is anyone. I'm a little bit worried about next week actually, because obviously next week are the final 3 episodes, which you know is mega because it's the end of all of this. Sadly, on one hand, but you know, quality over quantity. Let's call it that. But and again, this is why I always find this is why I don't do more streams, why I don't cover more shows and do more series, in certainly in the volume that I used to back when we started, and it was COVID times and whatever. But next week I am away Tuesday through Thursday with work, and that's gonna be awful, because not only does it mean that probably won't be able to pull one of these together like the next day or whatever, but I'm also going to have to try and avoid listening or watching anything online about it, because I don't want it, even though we know it's going to end up with Rogue One, but at the same time I don't want it spoiled, right? And it's going to be a nightmare because I want to watch it, but I'm think with work I'm going to be out working days and evenings, you know, because we're at an expo basically for 3 days. So yeah, I'm a bit worried. I'll have to find out and let you know.
Well, there's a good point there, Keith, with spoilers and how things are through everything media and the press these days. Even on my news feed, I try and avoid it around on Wednesdays for when this drops, because boom, it's Andor this, Andor that. There's other things that try not to spoil either. If it's like, you know, a movie that I want to see in the cinema or what have you, something that's more popular, but we are getting so much information thrown at us. It is it's a lot more of a challenge to bat that off and almost, you know, walk around with a bucket on your head so you don't.
Yeah. Well, this is why on this show I'm always very clear right from the start, and also the thumbnail and the opening scroll and everything. Very, very, very careful to put that. You know, we're going to talk spoilers, because you know I if there is anyone out there that listens to any of this, but you know I don't want to ruin it for anyone else either. So it's kind of like I want to, but yeah, I am scared next week. I want to avoid, because I look forward to see it. In fact, I'm wondering, I wish if it does drop in the middle of the night or something, maybe I just won't sleep and I'll find a way to watch it. But I like watching it on my large-esque screen, and you know, have the volume up or the headphones.
It does pay to watch this type of production on a larger, nicer screen too. It really does. It pays off. Everything from what you're seeing is better.
I wish they'd show this at the cinema. I'd go and see it if they did. I would watch this on the big screen if they showed it. You know, if they did it weekly at the cinema or something, I'd be like, they'd get a ticket, even though I've already subscribed to Disney Plus for it or whatever. I would go and pay to see this on a big screen. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, but if you do it weekly and it is dropping like this, say you'd have your 2.5 hours, 240 type show. So you'd have your ticket as well. So it's not a bad idea. You know, they do it with a lot of. At least in London and the BFI, they do have certain pilot episodes that they do show there, either kicking off or in retrospect. I mean, we talked before about Twin Peaks 35mm showing in the cinema in a few weeks' time. Yeah, I'd agree with you with that one. Yeah, definitely go see it on a bigger screen, the sound system too.
Yeah, Oh yeah, it's all of it. Anyway, anything else that either one of you want to add about these particular episodes or Andor in general before we bring this to a wrap?
No, just going to keep myself so busy that the time flies over the next few days. So then, and I in part, I'll be waking up next Wednesday, a little bit like a kid at Christmas.
But yeah. I love that. I love it when I do. I watch a lot of stuff. Just lots. But I do love it when you get those shows, those gems or whatever that are delivering and make you feel like that, because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't, frankly. but when you find them, it's just like, yeah, I love it. Love that feeling.
Yeah. Can I just make a correction? When I said kid at Christmas, I'm still like that. Let's be honest. I'm hiding behind a veneer there. Not at all. Every Christmas, I'm the one who's awake early. Hungover or not, whatever needs doing, I'm there in my PJs, running down the stairs. I know what's under the tree. Spoiler alert: there's no Father Christmas that provides any presents for me. They do to all the other to the children of the world. Father Christmas still does that, or Santa Claus, if you're the other side of the pond. But yeah, no, I'm so excited by that. Okay. And as I will be on Wednesday when Andor comes to an end, yes, it'll be sad. So it'll be like a sad Christmas.
It will. Well, on that note, Pete, it's time to use the comlink.
You can get in touch with the Let's See What's Out There podcast by sending us an email at lswotcast@gmail.com. Please drop us a line and let us know what you're thinking. Follow us on social medias, LSWOTcast. And you can find more of Keith. Why don't you tell us where?
Yeah, obviously you're already on Home Media Minefield, which is this channel. So thank you. If you want to check out some of my other work, there's another channel, British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. And that's got other bits of content, including some short thriller films, etc. The Urban Chiller Tales, whatever. So go check that out if you're so inclined. Also, I just want to give a shout out to Neil Myers, who did the music for this stream. And Neil's work can be found at neilmyersmusic.com. So that just leaves me to say thank you, chaps, for joining me on another one. And Pete,
live long and prosper.
Oh, there we go. Yes, love it. Cross the streams, as it were. Yeah. Anyway, thank you. If anybody is still out there listening to this, thank you for bearing this long. And we will see you next time, whenever that will be, to discuss the last 3 episodes of Andor and Rogue One, potentially, on the next episode of
Let's See What's Out There. I was the only one, guys.
You were the only one. There you go. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Let's see
what's out there.
Oh, dear, we were terrible.
There.
Yes. Anyway, bye for now. Nobody's going to be hiring us.